impact of Manipur's violence. For this, we have the two panelists on board today who are Advocate Geeta Rani Madam and Madam Rani Desai. Welcome on stage, Madam. For this discussion session, we will be having Akash Jain as the moderator. Rani Desai, an anthropologist and an theologian, established the Northeast Policy Institute, a think tank based in Guwahati in 2010. She has journeyed extensively across India and the world to study different kinds of societies and people. She has always shown a deep appreciation for Indian craftsmen and arts and their space in the context of the global cultural scenario. We welcome you, ma'am. Our second panelist today, Advocate Geeta Rani, a practitioner, Manipur High Court. She is an advocate with experience of over 25 years in areas of litigation, corporate and arbitration practices. Presently practicing before the Manipur High Court after establishing her own law office, GRT Legal and Associates, at Imphal in the year 2018. She has resided in UK and passed the QLTT, which is Qualified Lawyers Transfer Test, and gained UK qualification as solicitor, and also has worked as a legal advisor in SRS Center. We welcome you, ma'am.
Welcome Rami ma'am and Geeta ma'am. So Manipur has been a very crucial issue going on nowadays, and first of all, beginning with the session, I would like each one of you to please give us opening remarks. I mean, we want to know what exactly has been going on in Manipur and what are the various issues related to it, and why exactly Manipur is in the news nowadays. So I would like each one of you to please give your opening remarks. Geeta, you can.
Good evening, everyone. So, as we all know, Manipur problem started more than 3.5 months ago, starting from 3rd May 2023. So, how it started, the issues involving around it, there are certain issues like illegal immigrants coming to Manipur, and then we have cessation of operation agreement, SU agreement as we call it, which the government of India and government of Manipur entered with the militants. That also is an issue which is there, which I'll elaborate later on. And then we have also the narco-terrorist, as we call it, the drug issue, which is very relevant with this crisis. And before coming to these issues, I'll briefly introduce about the history of Manipur. And if I can have the pictures, like picture number 1, if you can.
Just a second, yes. We'll be having someone.
So Manipur actually we feel has been neglected because when we study Indian history, Manipur is not a part of Indian history at all. Like it has a recorded history of more than 2,000 years. Nobody knows Manipur. Like when this crisis happened, they were surprised to know that Meiteis are there and they are Hindus. They view with a lens like notice, okay, this is like image. They were surprised to hear because of this issue, like there's different communities in which Meiteis are there, and this kind of culture is followed by the Meiteis. We have more than 2,000 years old written history, which is called Chaitharol Kumbaba. This is the Chronicles of the Kings. And, different, by 18th century, Hinduism came to Manipur. Earlier to that, we were following Sanamahism. This is kind of ancestral worship and nature worship. So after coming of the Hinduism, different beautiful amalgamation of the old and the new religion came about, and we see culture evolving in which Ras Leela dance has been produced. It evolved, and then it's like universally it's appreciated. And then we have Pung Cholom, martial arts form of Thangta, and some different culture has evolved. And in Manipur we are seeing living together of 35 different communities. Sometimes we call it mini India. So this I agree there have been identity crisis over there, because in Manipur we have 3 main communities, which is okay, can you please show the picture number 1? Yes. I'll just take the map over here. The portion I circled is Imphal Valley, and the surrounding portions are all hills. So the southern part, which you see Chorchandpur, Chandel and Tamenglong, like that encroaching light green portions are the portion where one community called Kuki community lives. They are the dominant community over there. And on the northern side are the Naga community. And in the valley which I have circled, the Meitei communities and all other communities who are in the general category they live. So the Naga community and the Kuki community are the tribes, scheduled tribes after coming of the constitutions. So what happened now is the Meitei community and all other communities like Tamil, Nepalis, and we have Marwaris living there. Different communities are there. Muslims also are there. So we are all confined to this valley, which is the 10% of the whole Manipur land mass. And the Kuki tribes and the Naga tribes, which constitute 41.29%, they occupy the 90% of the land mass. And they can also come and stay to the valley. So, and once they, because they are a scheduled tribe, once they buy land in the valley, the process of buying it back from them is difficult. You cannot straight away buy it from them. They cannot sell it. We have to go through permission from district commissioner, hill council and all that thing. So it becomes practically impossible to buy it back from them. So now the condition is the Meiteis, they are reduced to actually possessing only 4% of this 10% land mass, because we have a big lake, Loktak Lake, freshwater, I think it's the biggest in the Southeast Asia. That occupies 4%. So from the 6% left, Meiteis are occupying 4%. And the population wise, you can imagine, 41% is the tribes, they are occupying 90%, remaining 58% are occupying that 6% land. So it is very suffocating and very congested. If you come to Imphal, you can see the effect. Like it's very, like there is no infrastructure, proper infrastructure, and so the main crux of the matter here you'll find again and again is the land issue, because the Meitei community are in the general category. Okay, and so to eliminate this problem, they have been demanding that they also be categorized as the ST. They be given the scheduled tribe status. Why? Because actually during the British time, before the coming into the Indian Union, we were always been described as forest tribes. With the coming of the Hinduism, the cultural difference, the different between the different tribals and Meiteis there have been like development differences are there, and all the kings they are like Meitei kings. So when you say history of Manipur, those are the history of Meitei. So they are the dominant people. They are regarded as a developed community. All that factor led to ultimately the Meiteis themselves foregoing the right to be considered as scheduled tribes. But as of now, because of this land issue, and then there is danger of our culture, our identity being slowly going away because of religious conversion happening, like conversion to Christianism happening in a massive way, and there is no provision for protection of our own identity. And also the land where we are staying, the 6% land to which we have access, that also is not protected. Anybody can come and buy. So all these factors have led to us to demanding ST rights. And 2003 we filed 2013 we filed an application before the government of India, government of Manipur, asking for recommendation to be sent forward. Nothing happened for 10 years. So we approached High Court. The High Court passed an order just saying that consider this application. Court cannot say consider giving them ST or not giving them ST, because it doesn't have the power. It's a purely executive power. But this kind of, you can say, innocuous order, like consider the application, send it forward if this you find it relevant, because the main issue actually court order was, it was hastily decided because no notice was given to the other party and no hearing was done. That was one main mistake. But in High Court matters, applications if given to the government, a representation is given to the government and not taken action, normally we file a petition saying that government has neglected its duty, give a direction for, like do its duty, kind of writ of mandamus we call it. So that kind of writ was issued and the court directed, okay, you within 4 weeks you dispose of this application by the Meitei community. And when that came out, all hell broke loose, literally. And 3rd May, a peace march, like solidarity march they call it, was organized by ATSUM, All Tribal Student Union of Manipur. And it was joined by all the tribes, all the Naga tribes and all the Kuki tribes. But towards evening, it turned violent in Churchandpur and some areas of More, where the Kuki communities were in the majority. Naga community, nothing happened. After the rally, everybody went back home and it was peaceful. But it turned out, right now, like evidence are coming out that actually they had international media stationed there from 29th April. It was kind of pre-planned. So things are coming out now. It turns out like there were actually some plans going on to move out all of the Meiteis staying in the Kuki-dominated area, which actually happened. And and obviously Meiteis retaliated in the late evening of 3rd May and the 4th May that viral video happened. And they are claiming total separation, both demographic and emotional separation has happened. Now only separate administration can work out. We want separation. From separate administration area to separate state to separate country, it has happened depending on which forum they have approached. So this situation of asking for a separate administration of a separate state is a very emotional issue for Meiteis. Earlier, like our insurgency group were all formed because of mainly this reason. So all the Meiteis retaliated in the sense like, in a way it's good, I say, because Meiteis are very disorganized, very, like not united at all for all other reasons. But for this one cause of preserving the territorial integrity of Manipur, it's very emotional for us. For me personally, I'm a very lazy person, I'm very happy in my own world, but when this topic came out, like, I thought, no, everybody must come out, I should also do my best. So this kind of feeling for the youngsters, they're doing all they can, taking up arms, like they're working in one corporate company, next day when they hear, they just go straight back home, take up arms, licensed guns, looted the police station even, to defend the villages. So this is a very emotional issue, and no Meiteis can allow the, separation of this Manipur cutting into different parts, either given to Kuki or Naga. So from one side, they are asking for separate administration, separate state, and from the Meitei side, we are uniting against this demand. So this has become the crux of the matter and the main cause for this present crisis right now. And the way central government is handling it, I feel our Home Minister has also mentioned in the Lok Sabha that it is a legacy issue. Because it actually, I'll take just two more minutes. What happened was, we had a history, and then we had our own assembly before merging to the Indian Union. Our own elected assembly. Right, it was in 1948, we formed our own government, and the Maharaj Bodhachandra was a titular head as like in the president. And then the merger was it was kind of Sardar Patel forcefully was trying to merge all the princely states for obvious reason. He wanted unity. So he was the Maharaja Bodhachandra was called to Shillong, and he was to meet I think the governor of Assam. And before meeting the Maharaja, the governor of Assam went to meet Sardar Patel, and he asked him, the Maharaja is reluctant to sign the merger agreement, what to do? And it seems like it's a famous answer by Sardar Patel now. Don't you have any, brigadier or any soldier in Shillong, something like to that extent? In the sense like giving permission to forcefully make him sign the merger. So after that, nothing was said, and the governor came back, and on 16th September 1949, I think, yeah, when the Raja came to Shillong, he refused to sign it without consulting the people. he was kept under house arrest. 21st September, he had to sign it. Under what circumstances is a big issue. So on 21st October, Manipur became a union territory, class C state, whatever, like, it's centrally administered state under the Indian Union. That this particular manner of entering the Indian Union is a big sore point in Manipuri's mind, especially among the Meiteis. And our elected assembly was dissolved, and we had to fight every way asking for statehood. From 1949 joining till 1972, it was a long struggle. And we were earlier full-fledged kingdom. We were not given statehood, even saying that your education level, your condition, you cannot manage your own government. That was the view given. It was a big insult to us. Why? Because in 1963, Nagaland, there was no state called Nagaland. A district from Assam was taken out, Nagaland was created and given full statehood. That was in 1963. Before 1963, there was no insurgency movement in Manipur. 1964, first UNLF, the insurgency group, was formed because of directly because of this, giving statehood to Nagaland. It was considered an insult to the people of Manipur. Now, statehood was given, and then again we had to struggle for, including our language in the 8th schedule. So this kind of step motherly treatment, as you would say, has been given to the people of Manipur as if doesn't care like kind of manner, no development, and it seems like some money be given and let the people take care of themselves kind of thing has been going on. And when the question is asked on us, especially Meiteis, why you are against mainland Indian, against Hindi language? Actually, I ask today, if the father is treating the child, the center is treating the state like step motherly treatment, how do you expect the child to love back? Before 1963, all the Meiteis, the struggle were all like Gandhi topi pehen ke, they were very peaceful. There was no voice against the central government. Everything has been, because of experience, because of certain insults, disappointments, these things have been, coming up, and the youths are frustrated with the central government's lack of interest, or rather, no action, nothing, no progress, nothing has been taken up in favor of Manipur. Instead, identity politics was played. Nagas were, separately called, and then they were negotiated separately, Cookies were separately negotiated, Meiteis were separately. They never looked at Manipur in one concept. They have been playing one group against another, and we hoped that the BJP government would do something different. But from this crisis, we saw that the Prime Minister was silent, was not really taking an interest. It was every section, the Kuki community, Manipur community, Meitei community, they all, expressed their disappointment. But I think slowly we can hope from the statement of the Home Minister in the Parliament that he has taken recognition of the actual issues of illegal immigrants coming up, and the drug issue. And then recently we have this COCOMI, the CSO apex body, which has come up uniting on these certain issues, meeting with the Home Minister, and he's been reportedly told to talk to the other communities and try to bring about peace. So at the end of 114 days, we see some hope of peace coming back, and the Meitei community trying, like us, to try reach out to the other communities and play the big brother, like the majority community and such. So we hope peace to come, and then after peace return, all the issues which we have to be tackled one by one in consultation with all the other communities also. Thank you.
So ma'am has given us the whole overview of what Manipur has been going through, and what are the historical and cultural things that have created the ruckus and the violence in the Manipur Valley. Ma'am, I would like you to please quickly put forward your opening remark, and then I would like you to answer. I mean, you have studied almost more than 10 to 15 years for the Northeast. So what has changed actually? So has there been any changes that has led to direct violence in the valley, or has this been the what we can say an output of what it has been going through since last 10 and 15 years.
Um, Thank you, first of all, for having me here. I've had a very tough schedule the last week. I'm on my fourth state in 5 days. But the reason I chose to come here is because it's incredible to me that Pune is interested in understanding the northeastern region or the conflict that ensues there. The Manipur conflict, unfortunately, has brought us together. We weren't talking about it before, and I'm sure in another 2 months we're not going to be talking about it again. And I think that says a lot about us. I think it says a lot about the psychological disconnect that we have had to deal with. But, yeah. So I was given about 5 minutes, which is possibly the most impossible thing I can do if I have to explain the Northeast. If I have to explain this conflict as well, because there's no simple way of looking at this conflict. We like to simplify it because we've become very used to in India to put very common lenses that we've seen in this conflict also of majority, minority, Hindu, Christian, or tribal versus non-tribal. However, the picture is much larger. Geeta ji said that these are legacied issues. But what do we mean by legacied issues? You know, again, the thing about the Northeast is you have to understand it from a wider perspective. When we talk about wanting scheduled tribe listing, why is that a problem? Who is a tribe? Did that ever exist in our consciousness? These are the questions that we need to answer. Very often, I start my talks by trying to define what a tribe is and where these nomenclatures came from. The reason I do that is because unless you understand that, you're not going to be able to understand the dynamic problems of tribal populations or complex regions, not just the Northeast, but also other populations across India, but you're not going to be able to find a solution. I'm going to quickly take you through this slide. I've shortened this slide from a 60-slide presentation to as much as I could, which is 39 slides. I'm not going to be able to take you through that, but I'm going to touch upon a few areas. The idea of a tribe didn't really exist, and I've gone through scriptures, I've gone through our ancient texts. The way they were referred to as just another community. There wasn't a uniqueness, or there wasn't a special status that was attached to them. There are many references of the Northeast, whether you look at it in the Mahabharata or you look at it in the Ramayana. There are many references of there being collaborations or there being knowledge of these regions and these communities existing. They have played hugely important roles, the tribal communities, not just in our history and our consciousness, but also in terms of our civilizational unity. And that is something that we have forgotten. The reason we've forgotten that is when the British came in, for administrative purposes, they divided these lands. And how did they divide it? They divided it by creating what were called excluded areas, included areas, inner line permits. Now, today we think that that was done to preserve some amount of uniqueness, but that was not done to preserve any uniqueness. That was done to tame what they considered were pagans, savages, and uncivilized populations. We never considered these communities as uncivilized. We never considered them as pagans or people without faith. That's what paganism means. And now there's this popular notion where we are self-identifying ourselves as pagans. It was a derogatory term. When the British came in, it was very clear to them that these populations were at a very nascent stage of nationhood. And this is in archival letters. The political agent in Assam wrote a letter to the secretary of the government at that time saying that, look, we are making a huge mistake trying to convert the middle classes and the upper castes in this country. That's why we are failing. What I have found here is complete savage, barbaric populations that are waiting for our civilization process, and we need to offer them what we know, which is the Bible. And therefore, that is where the secretary wrote back saying, look, we can't do that because that's not our mandate, and there are there were a lot of populations, contrary to popular belief, European populations in India that objected to religious interference. So they said our government will fall, but what we will do is we'll give you money to bring in missionaries who, under the garb of being teachers, will set up schools. And that's one of the advents of the British into the Northeast and into their administrative, their religious, and their community systems. Included areas were also, but there was huge objection by the International Congress, the Practioner Committee. All these organizations said that, you know, these excluded areas is going to give us unequal development. The previous panelist also spoke about UCC bringing in uniformity. This is exactly what we didn't get, because there were excluded areas, included areas, inner line permits, you can't come out of there, buffer zones. The development was unequal, and that is what we are dealing with today, is unequal development, because those were not under the purview of the British administration, so they didn't get the kind of benefits that other parts of the country got. Secondly, look at the geographical connectivity to the rest of the country. It is the most ill-imagined, most ridiculous way to carve out a nation. You have a 22-kilometer chicken's neck that joins the rest of the country to the northeast India. Do you know how long it will take to cut that off? When Shirjeel Imam or people like that say, you know, that we should block it, it is a real national security threat. That also brings in psychological distance, because, you know, travel time became longer. You didn't have connectivity. You didn't have flights. When I used to go there, I've been going there for 15 years now. And let me say this at the outset, people might consider that I have some amount of expertise in the Northeast. I never have expertise in the Northeast. This is my humble submission that I will always be a learner. And all these communications or commentaries that I see today, it is laughable, because, you know, you need to spend time. This is a region, this is not a state. There are 7 states. Everybody has a unique identity. Everybody has languages. There are multiple communities in every state. How can you say I'm an expert? Do I say I'm an expert of South India or North India? So, you know, this kind of, the minute somebody says that, you have to pass on whatever they're saying. But having said that, this went on. But we cannot just keep blaming the British, because actually the policies that the British laid continued post-independence. The majority of the conversion that happened after independence. So you have Verrier Elvin, the missionary who was Jawaharlal Nehru's tribal affairs advisor. He continued this sort of advice. Jawaharlal Nehru wasn't so interested in the Northeast. He allowed these sort of implications to happen. There were great sociologists, Indian sociologists like G.S. Ghurye, who were the heads of Bombay School of Sociology. My friends, we don't even remember who he is. He advocated for the inclusion of these areas. We don't study him. We don't use his frameworks. Whose frameworks do we use? We use Western frameworks of looking ourselves from outsiders' perspective. What is anthropology? Anthropology is a colonial arm that was created to study the people that they were colonizing. We still study ourselves using anthropology. We haven't changed one single framework. Unfortunately, that is the reality of our academia. That is the reality of ourselves understanding ourselves. So now today we talk about, there's a sense of otherhood. India does not, and this is the nomenclature that's used, that India does not understand us. But let me also say this, when I've been to the Northeast, many words have been used for me also as an outsider. So it goes both ways. There is a sense of otherhood both ways. And that sense of otherhood tells me that we are missing a very big dialogue here, which is understanding these communities from an insider perspective, not from an outsider perspective. Now, obviously, ma'am has already explained to us the Manipur conflict. I'm not going to go deeply into it. I'll save it for the question answers, because I can also look at him looking at me, telling me that it's time. But let me say this, it's not a one-lens conflict. Conflicts mostly nowadays, anywhere across the world, and that's my expertise, I study insurgencies, is not one lens. There will be multi-layers, there will be invested parties, and we have seen how this conflict has taken a life of its own. Like she correctly said, it started off with, scheduled tribe list inclusion, we are against this demand, wherein anybody who is from the tribal community will know that a high court suggestion means nothing. It goes to the TRI, it'll go to the RGI, it'll go to NCST, so on and so forth, you know. But that was considered the trigger point. But then it went on to, okay, we want 6th schedule, then we want a separate state, and we want, therefore, maybe a separate country. I even shudder saying those words, because these states are so crucial to us. They are our northeastern frontier, and there is nothing more important to us than our northeastern frontier, because that has been historically the region that has allowed us to access Southeast Asia in terms of not just our soft power, but also all sorts of other infrastructure and development initiatives. Our Act East policy is based on that. You know, I'm going to move, we can discuss all of this later, but I'd just like to show you. Oh, let me make this point. You know, we've all heard people talk about, oh, you know, this is a Hindu-Christian thing. Of course, nobody knows, you know, what the demographic differences are. Nobody knows that Kuki is not a unified label. Just like Nagas, these were labels that were given by the British. Yes, you know, these communities might have some loose ethno-linguistic relations, but there are internal ethnic rivalries as well. So today we are talking about, the world is talking about, oh, the Meiteis and the Kukis are in conflict. Oh, it's Hindu versus Christian. Rubbish. Why didn't they comment on any of these conflicts? Why didn't we bring in the religious angle then? You know, I can go on about how contrived all of this looks, but let me bring you on something larger, because we should not look at this just in terms of abhi violence khatam ho gaya hai, you know, things are fine, because the problem is much larger. The kind of incentives in this area is much larger. Today the violence will end. I knew 2 months ago also that there will be a point that violence will end. Manipur has seen 6 years of relative peace. I have gone to Manipur 15 years ago, wherein 4 o'clock curfew lagta tha, you couldn't go out. I have gone to Manipur where you couldn't travel on the highways without getting somebody to come in and do, you know, take a tax, and that wasn't the government taking taxes, you know. I saw in the last 6 years young kids coming back, setting up restaurants, state-of-the-art modern aesthetics. And it was incredible. Ukhrul, where NSCN really, you know, unka gad hai. Ukhrul had amazing Ukhrul chocolates being made there, which was like anywhere in the world. But, of course, the game is much larger. The great game West has already been played on our northwestern frontiers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the great game East being played. If you look at India, you have your Asian trilateral highway that goes across right into Thailand. It crosses two of the most troubled areas in Myanmar, that is Rakhine and Chin states that have their own insurgent groups. That is one of the reasons we are seeing the kind of illegal infiltration coming in. And anybody who tells me that there's no illegal infiltration doesn't know what they're talking about. And if they've figured it out, they need to tell me how they've done it. Because every state in the northeast has illegal infiltration from this border or that border. There are 1,640 kilometers of the Myanmar border. They're porous. Even fencing is not going to stop it. So you're going to tell me that they are going to want to go into Bangladesh and not going to want to come into India? Doesn't make any sense to me. Having said that, there's also a oil and gas pipeline that the Chinese have built that runs parallel to India. There are companies that are invested in this region. Let me show you this table. Please look at the companies that are invested in this region. These are the Rakhine and Chin regions. The Americans are invested in this. The Netherlands is invested in this. The Chinese are invested in this. They're mining. Do you think that they will allow us access? Do you think they will make it that easy for us? US, playing the great game East, is putting sanctions on Myanmar when Myanmar owes 40% of its foreign debt to China. US is putting sanctions on Bangladesh on the basis of democracy. The moral high ground to talk about democracy after you've done what you've done in Afghanistan, to me, is shocking. And you are putting sanctions on Bangladesh because the elections are coming up. International pressure has also pressured Myanmar to take in the Rohingya refugees. Rohingya refugees coming back into Myanmar is going to cause one of the biggest clashes that we're going to see, because the Buddhists are not going to tolerate it. That influx is also going to come into the northeast. So I will end my submission here. I'll wait for your questions and answers, because I just wanted to give you an overview and say, yeah, we can look at this conflict, in 2 or 3 lenses that we've been seeing it. But I think we need to talk about the bigger picture, because this is not just about Manipur's territorial integrity, this is about India's territorial integrity.
One point on what Rami ma'am has said here. So the advisor of Nehru. So even after the independence, one could see. I mean, there were few instances where missionaries were allowed to go in northeastern states and preach their religion, but other religion gurus, the sons, and they were not allowed to go and uh, actually meet people and all those things and preach their own religion. So here we can see absolute what we can say, people of one community going, and Nehru not getting much into northeastern states and ignoring it, as mentioned by you.
Yeah, may I add to that? It was not just that Hindu preachers could not go in, but there was a law that was taken out in Nagaland that you could not put any deity photographs or any national leader photographs in your offices. And then you want to have equal development.
Yeah. I'll move back, and I'll. So there is another question. So I wanted to ask, and I wanted you to put forward the background history of what actually there has been going on in Manipur. So as ma'am told us, there has been not this single issue or violence which has been done, but before that there was Naga and Kuki violence has been there. So what was the reason there, and again, how has that violence affected these things? And not only that, but other communities being there, and how this has affected the violence in Manipur right now. So I'll also like to put forward the thing. I mean, the violence which has been in Manipur has not just been in these 4 or 5 years, but it has been built. It has been being so it, as it has got legacy. There has been various previous instances where there were such clashes. So I wanted you to put forward those things and clear out something.
So, Meitei and Kuki community had never had a clash. In fact, when the clash between Kuki and Naga happened, and many Kuki communities came down to Imphal, Meiteis helped them, gave them shelter, gave them food and protection, made them settle in Imphal, kept them safe. So I would like to say here, Meitei communities are not against all Kuki communities. We believe there are sizable number of outsiders, illegal immigrants, as we say it, because they are not identified and given the take of refugees, because we don't have refugee policy as such in India. So Kuki community, the history of them coming to Manipur started during the time of British India. I think it was 1830. That was a recorded time when they entered into Manipur. And originally Nagas and Meiteis are the indigenous settler. We even now, though we are Hindus and they are Christian, most of them are Christians, we still have in our festivals, in our marriage, we still follow, that connection is still there. We have Naga's traditional clothes. When I got married, we were given certain clothes, and we said you should always keep it with you wherever you go. Even if you go outside abroad or wherever, you should always keep this with you. So that connection is nicely maintained, and between Meiteis and Nagas there is that understanding, in spite of the religious differences. So between Kukis and Meiteis, comparatively, like those, we call it all Kukis, they are like from 1830s till now, like centuries, 200, 300 years they are there. And then again there was like they have come in waves. And there's recorded entry in 1960. State government had given them refugee status and rehabilitated those people. So it came in waves, and with the coming of the military junta, and let me tell you this also, they are like this Kukichian belt. They are more or less like nomadic tribes. So they don't believe in a boundary. And of 398 kilometer long boundary we have with Myanmar, only 10 kilometers is fenced. It's like open border. So and they believe they are like same family, cousins, cousin tribes. So they keep coming, going, and there is no biometric record of who has entered. So it's more or less like when there's problem over there, they have come, in mass towards India, and Mizoram has taken up this by their own government action. They have recorded, and 40,000 of them are staying separated as refugee in the camps. But in Manipur, it's not like that. Our government did not take any steps like that. So they have come, and those who are identified, some of them by committee try to identify them. 2,000 of them are kept separately in relief camps, but it's not thousands. I think in one TV debate I was surprised. Major Bansal, he mentioned 1 lakh refugee. He has always said, there's no illegal immigrant, and suddenly in one interview he said people are suffering. There are 3.5 lakh people staying there without food, and plus 1 lakh refugee. I was like, where is this data coming from? But people who are staying there, who have come from Churchandpur, they said it's not 1 lakh, it'll be much more. So this issue of new entries from Myanmar, they don't know the culture of Manipur. They don't know the relation which we had, Meiteis and Kukis had since centuries back. So these new entries, especially those militants, which I said like suspension of operation with the militants, those militants are like found to be of Myanmar origin. And Indian government, state government of Manipur, they have entered into tripartite agreement with foreigners, suspending and then allowing them to set up, camps around Imphal. I'll show you a picture surrounding entire valley portion. And the firing, in this crisis, firing is happening from these camps, from the bunkers. And they're in the higher ground. You can imagine in the border area how the people are surviving. And because of this existence of this agreement, Sioux agreement with the militants, Assam Rifle is not doing anything. So the angst of the Meitei people, especially the Maira Paibis, why we are demanding, take action against Assam Rifle. When Sero village, in one of the border village, the Meitei homes were being burned, one vehicle, they call it Kashpa vehicle, I think, of the Assam Rifle, they came and stationed the vehicle outside the police station's gate, so that the police officer cannot, they cannot go and save those people, those villagers, houses which have been burned. There are solid evidence that some commandant, some battalion are actively helping those militants in doing all these violent activities and actually ethnic cleansing the Meiteis from this district where they are the majority, so that ultimately they can claim, separation has been happened. Now the only solution, and they have created a, like a zone, like no man's land, what do they call, buffer zone. And the armed forces are guarding it so that violence doesn't happen. That's true, but in this small state they have created a buffer zone, and in spite of the buffer zone being maintained by the Assam Rifles, in the early morning of I forgot the date, 3 villagers of Kwakta village, they were sleeping in the house. Kuki militants came and killed them, cold-blooded kill. Why they were allowed to breach the buffer zone, which were manned by the Assam Rifles. So all these things led to the suspicion that Assam Rifles are in collusion, and you can see the map there also. It's not possible that Kuki militants are using these camps to fire and then Assam Rifle doesn't know it. And Independence Day celebration and their remembrance whole celebration, the way the peace solidarity mass supposed to be peaceful with the AK-47 and all, is it possible that those things are happening in Churchandpur and Assam Rifle is not aware about it? It's not possible, right? So these things, maybe it is not because of Assam Rifle themselves, maybe it's instructions from above. They are not supposed to act, because not having ASPA is not an issue there, because in the hill district ASPA is there. If they wanted to act, they had full power to act. So this is one major issue where Meiteis are now demanding removal of these 2 agreements. And if you can move to, I just want to point out the next picture, please, 5. Yeah, these are the leaders of Kuki communities. Mr. Takhellambam Geeta is a president of the Zomi Revolutionary Army, and he was an ex-MP. Where? In Chin state of Myanmar. Now he is sitting here negotiating with the state government and the central government as a citizen of India. And he's admittedly, there is a video of him giving interview that he was an ex-MP and he was called and formed this Jomi, like reorganization group, and he's one of the leader of these two militants. And they are in political dialogue with the central government. And then we have Mr. Kem Chin, Vice President, cum Secretary, Zomi Revolutionary Army from Chin state of Myanmar. Then we have P.S. Haokip, the present chairman of the Kuki National Army, KNA, Burmese origin, he is sheltered at Nagaland. Then we have Mr. David Hangching. He is interesting because his wife, Mrs. Kimnyo Haokip Hangching, is a sitting MLA. And Mr. Hangching is the president of Kuki Revolutionary Army, KRA, which is again a signatory of this Sioux agreement. Then last, we can see Mr. Thangboy Kipgen. He is the chairman of Kuki National Front, KNF. If you can just scroll up a little bit, the last portion. He's the, he is a militant leader and he's the husband of Miss Nemcha Kipgen, the present Minister of, Commerce, Industry and Cooperation, Manipur. So this connection of militants, Myanmar and the politician is very, very closed. That's why all the 10 MLAs, elected MLAs, straight away in May 12th, they issued a statement, we want separate administration. It was all in their mind, they're all working cohesively together in full cooperation, and the violence is like structured in such a way, so that Meiteis retaliated, they all came out, total separation happened, and this is a do or die situation for them to get a separate state, and they have been aiming towards, making the violence persist, not allowing the peace to happen. Especially in the valley. When school opened, you see suddenly one Kuki lady being put there. I think she was having mental issues, mentally unstable. She came there and supposedly without any reason, wearing Maitri clothes, and people started talking like she's going to bomb the school, creating all kind of miscommunications, creating false fake news, so that people are not peaceful, not confident about sending their children to the school. That kind of scenario has been created. And now, I'll show you the next slide number 3, please. Illegal immigrants, like in 2 days, how many actually entered, recorded entry. This shows that in July 22nd and July 23rd, in Metro, people entered. So, you can imagine how many since military junta. I think it came 2017. So whenever over there attack happens, mass entry happened. Nobody went back. Obviously they can't go back, and there's no recorded also. And fake Aadhaar issuable business has cropped up. 8,000 for 8,000 rupees you can get Aadhaar recorded. They have been caught in Mizoram. So all this kind of murky business has been carried on, and because they don't understand Manipur, they don't understand the relation between the tribes and the Meitei community, they are dreaming of, actually they have taken control of the entire movement, and they are dreaming of actually getting a statehood or at least separate administration out of Manipur, carved out of Manipur. And sadly, the Mizoram Chief Minister is supporting this for whatever reason. He is dreaming about, like extended Mizoram or greater Mizoram kind of dream he's having. But he's seen to be supporting this. And next, I would like to touch the issue about drug cartel. If you can move to slide number 7, please. So, when these Kuki infiltrators came in, they have settled in forest areas because scheduled tribe, they think, there's all the forest areas are ours kind of belief is there. When government goes to take them out from encroached forest areas, they think we are encroaching upon their rights. So what happened is when these many villages have come up, new villages have come up. I'll show you the slide for the increase in the villages also. So this is data about poppy plantation in Manipur. What these newly entered militants or Kuki-Chin tribes, what they do, they do deforestation, and then they just engage in poppy plantation. And of course, they are the poor farmers. I agree that there are people from the top giving them money for doing this plantation and all. And this data is taken from Narcotics and Affairs of Border. The total area of poppy plantation in Manipur is 15,497 acres. In this, out of this, 13,122 were in Kuki-Chin dominated areas, and 2,340 in Naga dominated areas, and 35 acres under others. So the most, maximum plantation is done in the Kuki dominated areas. And number of arrests, if you see the last 5 years, 2018, the Muslim community were the number one arrested. So it's not even the Kuki people, okay. And Kuki-Chin 873 and Meiteis are also involved as drug peddlers, 381. And when the state government started its fight against drug, no other community protested because they know they are doing something illegal. However, Kuki community have protested, and some have even, I see 2-3 interviews, they have even gone on to say, why not legalize it? Yes, and poppy plantation is like not just spoiling the youth. It has also huge climatic ecological effect on Manipur, and we are seeing it in frequent flooding, untimely rain. Huge implications are there which they are not able to understand. And here I would like to point out that the drive of the government was also faulty, in the sense like those farmers who has no livelihood apart from doing this plantation, they should have been taken into board, given alternate measures, instead of straight away driving in and just cutting down a poppy field and acting like dictators. The method of the drug fight was also wrong. I admit that. Actually, it should have been a slow process through NGOs, CSOs, entering them, and some efforts were half-heartedly made, but it was not, fully functional. And those farmers, if they were taken out, given alternate measures, I think, because this crisis is actually starting from that act, war against drug, as the state government has started. So, that was some mistake in the method of the war done by the state government. However, this issue right now has to be discussed over the table. It cannot be a reason for actually demanding a separate state. It means like you want a separate state or a separate administered area so that you can continue doing all this illegal thing. I mean, that doesn't make sense, right? So we can always work it out over the table, what grievances they have. If there's no other means of livelihood apart from doing this, what can be worked out, what can be given for them. I mean, of course, plantation of other crops are possible. Ginger plantation, and then there are many fruits which grows there, and forest area, if you can actually utilize without disturbing the ecology. There are many scope of things. Maybe they don't know it, and it's the duty of the state government to enlighten them, bring them to the right path. So this has to be worked out.
The political differences in this state, and my question to Rami ma'am is, we have seen the identity politics play a big role in the issue in Manipur, where we can see the state assembly having out of 60 almost 40 MLAs being from the Meitei community and 20 being from the Kuki and some other part. So I would like you to answer, I mean, has this affected the issues going on in Manipur, and what are the challenges people may be facing? Because we have seen some segment of the some segment from people from Kuki community has been saying that these Meiteis have 40 peoples in the assembly, and they have all the political ownership and all those things, and why do they need to be in the categorized in the tribal, in the ST segment. And so if they have been if they would be given the ST again, we would be facing our own identity crisis. And so how do you think, these things have played role in the current issue?
So like I said right at the outset, that there isn't one lens, there are multiple lenses, and it's all come together to create what we see today, which is the deepest fault lines that we've seen in a really long time, and that is going to take a long time for it to bridge. But I'd also refrain from making this into a cookie Meithei thing per se, not in terms of the fact that I'm negating that there is a conflict and that there are anxieties, but I am looking at the future. These are the tribes that live on the borders. Isolating them completely or villainizing either or of the tribes is eventually going to hurt us. And I think we have to be very careful in the kind of dialogues we go into, in the kind of nomenclature we use, because at the end of the day, what is primary to us? If we do not have sustained borders, if our states on the northeastern borders aren't protected and strong, which can only be done not just by the military. See, we have a habit of saying government ne nahi kiya, military ne nahi kiya. Society ne kya kiya? We have not had one CSO come up that has bridged the gap between these two communities effectively. So why should we shun the responsibility that should be ours? Having said that, of course these issues have played a role, political issues have played a role, because one of the facts is that the Meithei community is educated, therefore there is a decline in fertility rates. We've also seen a demographic change basis illegal infiltration coming in. I don't want to argue whether it's 40,000 or 80,000. One illegal infiltrator is too much for me. Having said that, delimitation has happened in Assam. There is anxiety towards that happening in Manipur, and that is a relevant anxiety. Because demographic change per se via illegal infiltration settling in these border areas not only gives us issues with our national security on porous borders, but also changes the demography artificially, creating tensions within these communities who have historically lived together. Now, saying that the cookies are all illegal is also completely wrong. They're not, but having the courage to say that illegal infiltrators are illegal infiltrators, and they might have a secondary agenda here, that is, knowing that delimitation is going to happen in Manipur, there may be a concerted effort for demographic change, is a point that we have to accept. And, if you say that, there is so much of representation from the Meiteis, not enough representation from the cookies, it's basis population. So, where is the argument in that? Also, by virtue of the fact that there are 40% tribal populations that reap benefits that a poor Meitei can't. 31% reservation in education and administration, income tax exemption, top posts. So, why is it, somebody got very upset with me. I gave a lecture at NIAS and somebody said, oh, how can you call this a privilege? Sir, it is a privilege. When two communities live together in a state that has certain limitations in terms of its development or resource sharing, and one community has benefits and the other doesn't, it is a privilege. And therefore, I think all of these issues, like you said, the political issue has played a part, infiltration issue has played a part, the fact that there is illegal infiltration that is causing these problems has played a part, the fact that our civil society organizations, Manipur probably has the highest number of CSOs, but they are ineffective. So, responsibility lays on everybody's shoulders, and I'll stop at that because you may want to ask me a more pinpointed question.
Yeah. So we have discussed about politics and social issues. Now I'll move on to media and whatever has been the perception created outside of Manipur. What exactly has been going on in there, and whatever the perception has been made by the media. So there was this video of the two women being paraded, and so that even got out and got viral even after 2 months. And even that video was viral through social media. The mainstream media was completely out of the question, and they failed to cover all the places. I mean, all the issues going on in there. Only I guess the print was there, which went uh, to the uh, to the place directly and did some various. They made some videos and showed the case what has been going on in Manipur. So even the discussion of Manipur came into existence. I mean, people started discussing only after the video was viral. Before that, I mean, very few instances were there where people were coming out and actually talking about the Manipur, what has been going on there. So what actually got wrong according to you for the media, and what should they have done instead of the social media playing a role?
See, media in India has a problem. Unless it's trending, you don't want to cover it. Nobody covered the Northeast when there was 74% reduction in insurgency. Nobody covered the Northeast when there was from 6 airports a jump to 16. Nobody covered the Northeast when we had the highest amount of arms that was surrendered in the history of our country. But when there's a conflict, we jumped at it like vultures would at cadavers. And it is shameful. You know, there was a time in Manipur, and I think ma'am would remember this, that there was in the ISKCON temple a bomb blast. The first time it came out in mainstream media, and I'm talking about maybe ma'am, it was 2007, it came out in mainstream media 3 days later on page 4. If this would have happened anywhere else in the world, it would have been a front page and there would have been discussions and we would be debating about it. Thank God we didn't debate about it then, because now looking at the level of discussions that we have on TV, I'd rather not have them there. Because the level of understanding that they come from is absolutely abysmal. And this is what happens when you send reporters to Manipur as well. What are they doing? They're trying to get a sensational story. They're not doing in-depth study. They don't know, they won't even know how many major Kuki tribes are there, or how they consider themselves cousins. Is it an ethnic relationship? Is it a linguistic relationship? I mean, you don't even know, what is the length of your border in Manipur. So this is a problem. Having said that, we also had the Kukis and the Meiteis unfortunately send representations to United Nations. अपने देश में हमको नहीं समझ आता है नॉर्थ ईस्ट में क्या हो रहा है. You think the Europeans are going to understand it, and they are not going to come in here for any vested interest. Please read the representation in the European Union. It wanted, under the garb of being concerned about Manipur, wanted the release of a Kashmiri journalist. This is the intersectionality of problems that you want to put. And the fact of the matter is that the international media is upset with the fact that there is a Hindu assertive dispensation in this country. And they will do their best to make it sound like we have lost all control. And that is exactly what they've done in this, without a care in the world. I checked 5 people gave representations in the European Union. I checked their backgrounds. Not one came from a social sciences background. Not one had any interest in tribal studies or had ever studied it. Not one had any expertise in South Asia, Southeast Asia, let alone the Northeast. On what basis are they commenting on Manipur? And why should we allow it? Are we saying that we don't have the wherewithal to determine our own problems and find solutions amongst ourselves? But why was it done? We have to ask ourselves, why is it that we run to the West every time we have a problem here? Because there is clearly some vested interest. There is clearly some funding that is coming. I am not interested in what happens in some remote part in America. There's a gun shooting in a school every day. Why would they be interested in, in Manipur? So these narratives nowadays, media is completely, unfortunately, we live in a world where, media builds the narrative. Education and facts don't, and media has its own leanings. And that's what we've seen happen here, but we have ourselves also to blame. So I think we've been irresponsible. I think media is irresponsible. Having debates, for 72 days I've seen media houses have it. Now that the violence is gone, nobody is talking about the peace that's coming in. And I think this is what we need to do. Not have events like this only when there's violence, have it across the year. talk about the Northeast, talk about these areas. Ask questions to the media as to what happened to their great reporters and this great courage that they showed going into Manipur when violence was at its peak, and not giving the positive stories that should be coming out of there.
To concluding part. So my last question to both of you would be: so we have talked about the issues, cultural differences, even some similarities, even the media getting into it, the politics getting into it. So what is the solution? So could there be any talk between the stakeholders? You talked about Maiti being the big brother, and then going and meeting from people from Kuki segment, and then there has been some peace from last few days. And so I would like both of you to answer this and then put forward your concluding remark. I mean, what could be the a path to peace, and how could this issue be solved so that not only for few days, I mean, let's say not only for few months, but the peace should stay long, not for just months but for years to come ahead.
Yes, when we look at immediately, what I feel is immediately, because the present peace is like artificially brought about, underlying tension is still there and people are still armed, civilians are armed, and the Sioux militants, they are still armed. So disarming whoever has guns without authority, like the civilians, and Sioux militants also under the agreement, they are not supposed to be armed. So disarming both group is the first step which should be taken about. And regarding peace talk, I think CSOs, especially the Maira Paibis, the Imas of Manipur, from both sides, they should actually initiate the peace talk. They are the ones who are suffering the most. Their families are affected, and the family members, they are looking after that also, and the whole, they sleep on the street at night. They are not able to sleep inside the house. That kind of physical torture, mental torture they are suffering. And the leaders are not the one facing the brunt. These people are. So I think the peace, if it has to happen, it has to be from the initiative of both communities, and the CSOs and the people from the relief camps. The Imapaibis are coming from out of the relief camp and from the villages. They should actually initiate these talks, and that will be more effective. However, with the peace talk happening, all these issues about, right now actually it's going on, NRC process, the biometric recording is going on. All this process also should be continued. And as I said, the Sioux agreement has to be revoked or re-looked into how, are these actually for stopping the militants from taking up arms and coming back to the society, or is it really working? What was the aim and objectives? If it is not working, why not finish it? Why not stop, this agreement, or, bring about certain criterias which will make it effective? Because instead of reducing the number, the militants have increased when you are not supposed to recruit it. So in ground, it's not working. So relooking at this agreement is very essential, because especially the element of outsiders from coming from Myanmar and actually dictating how the politics should be carried out in Manipur, that's not acceptable. So all these things side you have to look into. And then of course the drug issue, which is very crucial, because it's not it's supposed to be 70,000 crore worth of business, and it's not going to be confined to the state of Manipur. It's a national security issue also, because it's crossing the Golden Triangle, is being said to be shifted towards Manipur. And this is a big concern, because drugs destroy society. We have seen one whole generation of youth, destroyed in Manipur because of drugs. So we don't want anything like that to continue, and also it is going to actually touch all over India and outside also. If you remember Sushant Singh Rajput death case, there was a mention of one person relating to drugs, Samuel Hawkib, if you remember the name. He is a cookie person. So this drug, actually, the threat of drug business is everywhere in major cities, especially, and it's going to enter the schools and everything. So if we want a long-term peace, bringing solution about this drug cartel, how to finish it off, not just the poppy plantation, but the drug cartel, if there's any political link, that has to be stopped. this is a must for the future development and bring out peace in Manipur. So I think of all the issues, of course, the SD demand that has to be talked out between Meiteis first has to take into confidence with the other communities, the Nagas and the Kukis, because they are also afraid how their interests will be impacted. So giving them assurance that their interests will be protected inside the state, and of course the land right has to be also shown to them that we are asking equal land rights of our own state. We can buy land, we can buy houses outside Manipur, anywhere in India, or even in the world. But in our own state, we cannot buy in certain 90% of it. That's not, fair. That's not reasonable. So that has to be convinced, and a solution, combined solution, has to be brought about by all the communities in Manipur, because we cannot expect some solution to be put from top, from the central government. It has to be worked out by the people.
What do you think could be the solution for the peace?
So, I have said this a couple of times. I think, of course, we have to look at bringing the weapons back that are floating around. They said there are about 4,000. We've, got back 2,000 weapons. How are you going to bring it back? See, we can suggest, but we have to have some sort of a roadmap of how do you do it. Now, one of the ways that you do it is, and there are many examples of this, is that local communities become very aware of what's happening around them. This has happened amongst border tribal communities in Tripura, Jamaatias, who, when NLFT used to operate in Tripura, used to be the informers for the security agencies. They used to tell them if there was somebody trying to get passage of way, because NLFT used to be trained in Bangladesh. See, we have to understand this as a whole holistic historical security issue. The longest running secessionist movement in this country was in Nagaland. And their demand was for a country called Nagaland for Christ. They were funded and trained in China. That's where their weapons came from, that's where their ideology came from. And they used to use the Myanmarese roots, where they had common tribes, to go to these areas in Yunnan and, train. Same way the NLFT in Tripura trained in Bangladesh. ISI used to train them across the border. Now the only way they could enter India were through these borders, and they had to cross these communities. The Jamaatias decided that they had had enough of their state being in conflict, and they said, look, you can do whatever you want to with us, we're not going to give you safe passage. They kidnapped their children. So they got together and they said, keep our children, we'll produce more, but we will still not give you safe passage. Now this is just one example. Kachin women became informers for the agencies. Any armed insurgent that was going through their villages, they realized the direct impact would be on their children. And therefore they used to pass the messages on. Unless your border communities are aware, are responsible, and are willing to take that extra mile, we're not going to be able to seal these borders. Fencing is only as strong as your weakest link. And 1,640 kilometers of India-Myanmar border, which is densely populated in difficult terrains, you're not going to be able to fence. Biometric tracking also is really not going to, in my opinion, I think it's a great start, and I think it must be encouraged, but I don't think it's going to really be able to withstand what is happening unless you have support on ground. Because people are going to refuse to give their biometrics as well, and they have the right to do that. So when we talk about getting weapons back, we don't just talk about getting weapons back in the air saying that, it's the agencies, they should get it back. They should surrender it. Why will they surrender it? It is a whole role that the community, the agencies, and every stakeholder plays to bring these weapons back, number one. Number two, you have the question of illegal infiltration. Now, if there are settlements and there are villages within your communities, you know exactly who they are. Why are they not being identified by communities around? And I think, again, that is a responsibility that our tribal communities have to take. We also have to really be sure that we know what we are saying so that it doesn't ignite more violence. Things are very sensitive at the moment. Nobody is happy. Either of the communities have huge distrust, and that is going to last for a long time. And we are saying a lot of things, and we are having debates, and we don't understand the situation. We are trying to demonize one community over the other. It's not going to work. So be very careful of what you say. I also think on more of a political level, I think we need some amount of studies on these communities on ground. We have absolutely no idea when we talk about it. Look at how the nomenclature has changed. It was Kuki, then it became Zo, then it became Chin. And do you know how many communities are within that? And that also a loose number. Then there are sub, alright, then there are intermediary. Then you have to figure out whether it's linguistic, whether it's ethnic. We don't have any survey like this. We don't understand what we're dealing with. So if you don't know what you're dealing with, how are you going to find a solution? And also when we're talking about political representation, as you mentioned, let me tell you, political representation amongst the tribal community only comes from the biggest sub-tribes or the tribes. The smaller sub-tribes have zero representation. So maybe they need to be brought in a way to gain trust. So okay, you have certain major tribal communities within the Kukis who have a trust deficit, but there are still the smaller sub-tribes that can be brought into the ambit of our faith, and that must be done. And however we choose to do it, I suggest some sort of a creation of an upper house, where they can be represented. But of course, this is, I can give as many suggestions as I want, nobody is listening to me, but I would say something to this measure. And of course, above and beyond that, I think we have to realize, I have never been critical of the defense forces. We might have our grievances with them, but at the end of the day, they're the people who guard our borders. Yeah, there are loopholes, but I think what it does is when you're critical of them, it gives impetus to people who are willing to manipulate these loopholes, to do it faster and do it stronger. So I think we should keep this faith, because if we don't have this faith, we really don't have a future to look forward to. Also, last point is, I think we have to look at this picture in a bigger way, like ma'am correctly said, that right now we have peace which is a manufactured peace, right? Everybody's tired of the conflict. This is not going to end unless we don't understand the South Asian, Southeast Asian perspective. And another 20 years, you want your borders to be secure, you want peace, start looking at Myanmar, start looking at Bangladesh. If the dispensation changes in Bangladesh, do you know the kind of migration you're going to have on your borders? And that kind of dispensation change is going to happen today or tomorrow. 0.5 degree climate change is going to bring 10 million refugees on your doorstep. What are you going to do then? No army, no military is ever going to prevent woman or child or refugee from coming in. Pray for the peace of your northwestern borders. If Pakistan was to break up, they're not going to Afghanistan, they're coming here. Pray for the peace of Bangladesh and Myanmar. If something happens to them, they're coming right back here.
Now the floor is open for questions. Okay, we have various questions. One by one we could build them.
To Rani Desai, yeah. You mentioned that the issue right now is more of India's territorial, India's integrity rather than Manipur's integrity. Yeah, so I would like to know, with regard to Act East policy, how important is the territorial integrity of Manipur for India?
Great question, but let me correct you. I didn't say it is rather about India's territorial integrity and not about Manipur's. I said it is not just Manipur's territorial integrity, it is also India's territorial integrity, because what happens in Manipur, make no mistake, has an impact on us. It is the gateway to Southeast Asia. More, the town on the border, is the golden gate that will bring that kind of connectivity that we've historically had. How do you think Buddhism went to any of these countries? That's our greatest soft power. It went through these regions. Of course, other ways also, but it also went through these regions. How do you think you're going to have connectivity which is going to bring in trade, that is going to bring in pilgrimage tourism, if these areas are not secure and safe for us to travel in. You know, like I said, in the last 6 years, you know, we might want to blame our Prime Minister for not speaking up, but honestly, because I look at it from an outsider's perspective over a period of the last 15 years, from these places where I could not go safely, where I had to spend 30,000 bucks to get a ticket to go to, you know, some of these areas. Today I felt safe. Today I could travel. Today I could go eat in a nice restaurant, not live in a third-rate hotel, because all these things had come up. Do you think we don't want this? You know, this is exactly what the youth of this country wants. And that's why I saw this difference of when young people started wanting to come back. Otherwise, they used to go away. After ask any of my friends sitting here from Manipur, class 12 ke baad, their parents used to send them away, because what were they going to do there? It was not safe, it was not secure, there was no industry. Therefore, our connectivity, our Act East policy hinges on states like Manipur. It is hugely important for us. India is going to, it's it's a growing economy. It's going to become a balancing power between the West and the East. It sits in the middle. Our northwestern frontier is closed for trade because of Afghanistan, the dispensation change there, the situation in Pakistan. Our only frontier that is open is the northeastern frontier, and we have to be able to make the most of it. And it's not just about the kind of trade that's going to come in, or the kind of pilgrimage tourism that's going to come in, which is going to be immense, because right now the Buddhist pilgrimage tourism comes via Calcutta, costing them 2 times the amount. If they were to come in from Moreh, and the train lines are going in there, it would cost them half the amount, and they would be able to easily access Bihar and Madhya Pradesh, places where their pilgrimages are, which would give great rise to, hospitality industry, tourism industry. But what is also really important is, as we keep becoming a growing economy, we're going to have certain amount of need for critical minerals to power us. Our transition into green energy is not going to happen if we don't have access to this. Where do you have access? Why are these companies, the map that I showed you, why are they in Rakhi Nenchen? That's exactly what they're doing. So if our states on the border, on the northeastern frontier, are not safe, secure, not developed, we're not going to be able to make this transition.
Ma'am, as you said that our Prime Minister is silence, I want to ask you a question from you that in Parliament, Amit Shah also said to opposition and said that we can discuss on the Manipur issue and come together. And also when the parliament, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi was speaking on the Manipur, our opposition walks away and they are not concerned about the Manipur issue. And as you said that the Manipur is happening, what the things is happening in Manipur, no government is not taking any action. Our Amit Shah is also visited to Manipur and try to take action, the security also. And the many things you have said about the government and blaming only the government, I want to ask one question from you, that in the incident, what is the role of the society? What the role of society, what they are doing, making videos, they are not saving the women and girl. They are trying to say that only government is wrong. As I have many friends from Manipur, we have participated in G20. I know many people from Manipur. So when I interacted with them, they said that no, we are not blaming to our government, present government. We blame to our society people, because they don't think that why this is happening, and they are not trying to take the actions. They are not trying to be unite. So for blaming only the government is the right thing. And second thing I want to mention to you that
one question is enough.
one thing. In West Bengal, as you can see that Mamata Banerjee government recently, the BJP candidate has been paraded nude, but we are not talking about that. But we are only concerned about the Manipur. So we have to think about it, not blaming only the government. We have to think about society and change the society. Thank you.
Yeah. See, from my talk, if you got the perception that I blamed only the government, then I think I have conveyed my message wrongly. I said the government didn't act properly in many ways, which is true, because no violence should have been allowed to persist for 3 months. There you agree, right? So when I say government, both state government and the central government. Central government, why I was saying was because Prime Minister Modi was someone which, the people of Manipur finally thought we found some leader which we can trust. He has a very big image in our mind. When he comes, everybody rush to him. Which, never happened earlier. So what people of Manipur, both communities expected was, when all these killings and all this violence happened, at least he comes out with a message, like as an elder, speaking to them, stop the violence, we look into your interest. That kind of message would have helped a lot in bringing about confidence to the people. It's not that the parliament, yes, the parliament happened. No, it's all right. It's all right. The parliament happened months later. What the complaints from the people were in between this time, and actually in the parliament, the first time, unfortunately, when the prime minister spoke for 30 seconds, it happened after that viral video came out, right? So timing, the manner in which it was coming out, he's talking about Manipur, it was not satisfactory. And we are okay with not speaking about it if actions is being done in the ground. So now people are not complaining, right? Because we feel that the central government has at last understood about the situation when the Home Minister talked about illegal immigrants coming in and the issues being legacy issues, and we are like, it's a very sensitive issue, everything. Like, you cannot just bring about and then speak everything about in the parliament. We understand that. But the crisis being allowed to linger on for 3 months without taking positive actions, both by the state government and the central government. They are the ones responsible for law and order, right? And how many troops are, armed forces are stationed over there? 60,000. Why is not possible to bring peace in a small state like Manipur with 60,000 troops stationed there? That's the question where I asked, why the government is not giving instruction to the armed forces to act. Because if they wanted, it could have been handled. Or maybe they didn't understand properly, whatever it was, intelligence failure, something went wrong. And what we saw in that time was the state forces, central forces, they were acting in different directions. If both of them had combined and act in one direction, it could have been controlled. And of course, I'm not blaming the central government, as you have said, it's not possible to blame one agency. The fault, it's like cumulative effect of different factors. But yes, law and order situation should have been handled properly.
As well. But here's how I look at it. Security is, as it is, a very difficult, incentive in situations like this to take, Of course, there have been delays. There's absolutely no question about that, and accountability should be sought. But here is my divergence from your point of view. If the Prime Minister would have spoken, I can guarantee you violence would not have stopped. Yeah, right? What would have happened is it would have played into the trap of not just international vested interests, but also of the opposition who've already made this a political issue. They would have said, see, he's lost his sheen. Nobody's listening to him, right? Now, number two, I'll give you another example. During the Khalistan movement, did the Prime Minister speak? Why? Because it gives it more negative perspective and focus than it needs. What happened to the Khalistan movement? Where is Amritpal Singh today? We don't even talk about him. See, sometimes what happens, and this is my study of security, please forgive me if you disagree, but I'm just giving you my perspective. What happens is sometimes you have to measure, is what you say or what you do or the actions that you take, is it going to add more fuel? Is it going to get it more negative international press? Because if it's seen as a communal issue, the chances are that there'll be more communal issues in the country. And the timing is ripe. It's close to the elections. There's delimitation happening. There are questions on NRC. I mean, anything can be manipulated. So I feel also, the way we work, this does fall into the ambit of the Home Ministry. And that is, the channel that is worked. But, I do understand that people expect it because, we've made the Prime Minister into such a larger than life person that we expect him to say something and solve all our problems. I just don't think reality works like that.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I'll just add something to that. To not is that is another question. What actually happened at that time was pure emotion of the people, which everybody, whether it's Kuki community people or Meiteis, they all expressed this desire of wanting to hear from the Prime Minister. That is the only thing. Yeah.
So it's for the violence has caused. So is it really a reason for the violence? And if yes, then how the victimization of women against this kind of sexual violences could be controlled, and what reforms could we create to empower the women as a society? Because not only laws and regulations are necessary in this scenario, as a society and as a citizens we need to have some contribution. So what could be done?
So one part I think she'd be better at answering, in terms of, what the society wants, but let me answer it in my limited understanding of it. Uh, the fact is that in conflict situations, fringe elements do take over. It's not people like you and me given guns. We're not going to go around shooting each other. Yes, in this, civilians also got involved, emotions were heightened. But, vulnerable groups are the ones that are impacted in conflicts. Women, children. What I find sadder is the fact that a video like this was manipulated and timed and taken out. As it is, it's shameful that something like this should happen, but it's even doubly shameful to know that that is being manipulated and that is being politicized. I think not just the people who were responsible for that incident should be arrested, but people who decided to take this video out should be arrested. And that is the message that should go back. But, vulnerable groups being impacted in conflict, I'm sorry to say, anywhere in the world, sadly, that is the reality.
So I believe regarding the violence against women, it happened both sides. Okay, the 3rd May, there were 9 ladies who were molested. There are no videos, but there are FIRs of 3 women filed and CBI is taking over, and then the fallout happened on the 4th, unfortunately, and the videos coming out at untimely. That part is clear now, and the Supreme Court has taken cognizance, and SIT is there. Regarding empowerment of women, you were saying, what can we do about it? I think in Northeast, women are the most empowered among, considering, like, comparing with other parts of India. We are the most outspoken and I don't know, like Maina Paibisu must have stayed. They come out, and then form a group, most effective CEOs, you can say. So empowerment as such cannot be more than what's given right now. We have equal rights, everything. Yes, when violence happens like this, in this kind of scenario, the mobs, they attack the weaker sections, like as it happened right in this situation also. So when we say empowerment, I don't think, I take pride in coming from Northeast and especially from Manipur in saying that the situation, the status we have in the family as a woman, it's really admirable, and there is no suppressing women as such. You will know if you can, if you come to Northeast, you'll know the difference, yeah.
So I was just going to say the same thing. I have been working in Manipur since 2017. Kurumjari to you. Namaste. So I have been I've been staying in a small village in Tamenglong, Sisipur also, Imphal also, and also in Ukhrul, a small village near Ukhrul. So I would like to tell everybody that as a woman I have never ever felt unsafe in Northeast, and it was so heartbreaking to see this news. Yes. And now whenever anybody asks me anything about Manipur, I would say the first thing, it is the safest place in India to be for women. And I wouldn't think of working alone in a small village in maybe Maharashtra also. Forget about North India, South India, but even in my own state, I wouldn't go and stay alone in a village. But I can go and stay alone in Manipur, be it in Kuki area, be it in Naga area, be it in Meitei area. I can go wherever and stay and work alone. And that is only possible in Manipur and maybe the rest of Northeast. So I would like to tell everybody that is my live experience, that it is really very, very safe. But this video which came out, it has created a mistrust. But my own life experience is it is the most safest place for women to stay. You get immense amount of respect over there. Whenever I travel, I work there as a teacher, so whenever I travel, if I have to, I've got the life's best experiences Manipur. They take a lot of care of me, all the people where I work. So that's all.
Thank you for that.
Interest here. Are there internal forces like within the country that also benefit from the unrest that is happening in Manipur?
Of course, I mean everything nowadays that we see is aimed towards the present dispensation. You know, that they're not being able to manage, India's out of control, we're not a society that can live peacefully, there are communal clashes. That's why the kind of lenses that we've seen have been applied on it. Why would they call, a simple Google search will tell you that, the Meiteis are not 100% Hindus. You know, a simple Google search will tell you that the Cookies also said that this is not a religious fight. The Meiteis also said that, Christian Meitei churches have been burnt. Why would then these statements be made? So, of course, there are internal factors. I think in India, opposition means playing a destructive role and not being a productive opposition. So I think that also sort of, makes things complicated. But apart from that, there are also what we call sleeper cells. Cells that activate during times of conflict to turn the conflict into something that it is not. And that we've seen happen during the CA in UP. Little sleeper cells sprung up, became active, could transfer weapons in no time. There was acid bombs, acid packets in the hundreds, stones that were collected in the thousands. How does that happen? That's because those cells get activated. And that's how these conflicts become larger than they should become. And the problem also is that it's very difficult for our agencies to be hard-handed on their own citizens. It has been done in Nagaland and it has isolated that state for many, many years, turning it into a hugely rebellious secessionist movement because of the hard-handedness that was used. Because they'll say, well, our defense forces are using these tactics against our own citizens. Solutions are difficult. They are long-term. They have to be played slowly. Problems are many.
In Manipur, you said that disarmament is very helpful for the peace in the Manipur. So do you really think that disarmament will that help in that situation? Can you tell the negative points about it? And if we apply the disarmament in Manipur, how will that work? Like what is the procedure for it? What will be the...
See, the procedure is complicated because these arms have been spread far and wide. Right now, Imphal East and Imphal West, the central forces and the police state forces are combining together and doing operations like combing operations. They're going home to home and searching, and they have actually recovered many arms. This armament has to happen. You cannot allow the arms to float around among civilians, right? And I didn't mention these actually, those youth, especially from Meiteis, who have come out against the militants. They are not trained in arms. They are forced to rush out with armed with guns and actually shooting people. For bringing about peace, I think counseling for them also is very important to bring them back into the society, because 3 months they're out there in the wild, acting like militants, and they're more or less joining insurgency groups. So bringing them back also is one of the most important aspect of bringing peace, lasting peace in the society. And regarding Meiteis, Meitei community, the armed Meitei civilians, the leaders have expressed opinion that once the Kuki militants, the Sioux militants have been disarmed, and that can happen because they are in agreement with the armed forces. So if the arms from the Sioux militants have been taken out and that has been conveyed to them, the leaders have guaranteed that they will themselves bring the arms back. If they have the confidence that the Sioux militants are not going to attack them anymore, they will themselves surrender, And if that also doesn't work, of course, the measures of combing operation, going home to home and searching and taking out is has to be done.
For being here. Geeta ma'am was supposed to be in Manipur, but due to this program, she has waited back and has been here and guided us through various issues going on in Manipur. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you to Rami ma'am also. She came all the way from Delhi to be here in this program today. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Emotion which we might be devoid of, or we wouldn't have been known if you all didn't tell us. Right? So moving forward, now we have Nitish, who will be coming forward to facilitate Geeta ma'am. Forward to felicitate Rami ma'am, Rami Desai ma'am. Towards the end of this beautiful journey of two enlightening sessions, one on UCC and one on Manipur. Moving forward, I will be handing over the mic now to Jagjit Singh Bhalla, who is the member of INDGenius and a student of B.Tech second year at MIT WPU, for the vote of thanks and for the national anthem.
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम जगजोत है और मेरी एक स्वयं रचित कविता थी जो यूसीसी पर है, तो उसके बाद मैं आप सभी का आभार प्रकट करूँगा। मानते हो खुद को जो वासी इस देश के, तो दोगुनों सा अब यह व्यवहार बंद हो। सुविधाओं का भी मिले ज़्यादातर लाभ होने, बहुत ही हो चुका यह दुष्प्रचार बंद हो। द्वार सिर्फ हो खुले जी न्यायपालिका के मित्र, जाहिलों के बचने के द्वार सारे बंद हो। सेक्युलर देश है तो सेक्युलर ही रहो ना, अनुचित सबके अधिकार बंद हो। अब आज अनेकों ही विषयों पर चर्चा हुई, जैसे मणिपुर, यूसीसी और कुछ केंद्रित बिंदु इसमें से हमें प्राप्त हुए, जिससे हम और साथ ही मैं अपने आदरणीय प्रवक्ता श्री प्रदीप रावत जी, एडवोकेट चिन्मय भोसले जी, एडवोकेट गीता मैम, रामी देसाई मैम और उपस्थित सभी गणमान्य सदस्यों का धन्यवाद प्रकट करता हूँ, जिन्होंने अपना मूल्यवान समय हमें दिया। साथ ही मैं यह फिरोदिया हॉल प्रदान करवाने मतलब उपलब्ध कराने के लिए भंडारकर ओरिएंटल रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूशन का भी धन्यवाद करता हूँ। अब मैं मोरवी कुलकर्णी जी को राष्ट्रगान लेने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूँ।
Please stand for the national anthem. जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंग, विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलहि तरंग, तव शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभ आशीष मागे, गाए तव जय गाथा, जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, जय हे जय हे जय हे जय जय